The sky above Calrex 9 was no longer blue. It had turned to a thick, smoky, red painted by the fires of falling cities and skies full of burning wreckage. Once this planet was calm, a peaceful place full of science, culture, and soft-spoken beings who believed in peace over war. But that belief was now dying, just like their people. Black shadows moved across the sky, creatures not born of this world, monsters that had no name in any known language. They came through the stars without a signal, without a warning. Didn't want to conquer, they wanted to devour. And in just 4 cycles, entire cities were swallowed, screaming. What remained of the Calrex? People were trapped underground, huddled in cold bunkers, sending out desperate cries across the galaxy. They begged, they pleaded, they promised anything to be saved. The SOS was simple, just 3 words: please help us. It was broadcast on every known frequency. It traveled through council channels, pirate networks, and even ancient deep space communication satellites that hadn't been used in centuries. The hope was that anyone would hear them, but hours passed, then days, and nothing came. The Galactic Council ignored it, tied up in debates and legal protocol. Other planets turned their eyes away, not wanting to risk their own lives. Even the mercenaries refused to dangerous, they said. Not worth it. The Calrex leaders watched as one by one, their last chances vanished like smoke. But then something strange happened. Far beyond the edges of known space, dark satellite, old, rusted, long forgotten, suddenly blinked to life. It in over 400 years. It was marked dead frequency, do not respond. But it activated on its own. Inside that ancient machine, buried deep in broken metal, a different signal pulsed back. It wasn't warm, it wasn't hopeful. It was cold, direct, just 4 words: help request received. Earth. Calrex scientists were confused. That name hadn't been spoken in a long time. Most believed Earth had been destroyed in the Council Wars. Some said it went silent by choice. Others whispered it had become a dead planet filled with ghosts and bones. No one really knew. Earth had simply disappeared. And now, out of all places in the galaxy, Earth had answered. A council ship picked up the response. Their system flagged it immediately. Do not interact. Higher risk world. The officers stared at the signal, confused and shaken. Earth was a Class 0, death world, a place marked unfit for life, unstable and uncontrollable. Long ago, the Council had voted to cut all contact with Earth. No trade, no diplomacy, no entry. It's not because humans were weak, but because they were too dangerous. Earth didn't breed diplomats, it bred survivors. Warriors, monsters, and now that world had awakened. Meanwhile, on Calrex 9, the people in the underground bunkers stared at the darkened screens. Their leaders tried to calm them, saying help was coming, but no one believed it. Not until the sky cracked open. Without warning, the air above the largest burning city split in half, long, slow ripple in space itself. Then they appeared. Black. Ships, silent, no markings, no engines glowing. They floated through the smoke like shadows with purpose. Long, sharp holes made of unknown metal. No sound, no flashing lights. Just the low, terrifying hum of something ancient moving forward. The Calrex watchers held their breath. The monsters paused in the sky, sensing the change. Even they felt that something different had arrived, something worse than them. The black ships didn't ask for permission. They didn't send greetings. They simply dropped. From their underbellies came long, spear-like pods that slammed into the earth like thunder. The ground shook. Buildings cracked. Then from the pods they came. Humans, but not the soft, smiling humans shown in old photos. These were something else. Their armor was black, but it moved like skin. Their eyes glowed faint blue, scanning everything. Some wore no helmets. Their faces were marked with scars and burns, yet they showed no fear. They moved as if they had trained for this exact hell. One of them walked through fire without a soutane, didn't flinch. The Calrex survivors watched from their hidden cameras. Stunned, One human soldier looked straight into a drone, and he smiled. Not kindly, but like someone who was finally home. He raised his arm, gave a short signal, and the attack began. The humans didn't run. They didn't hide. They hunted. Monsters that took down tanks were torn apart by Terran blades and hammers. Creatures that melted walls were stopped by bare hands, and strange bone-colored weapons that howled when fired. One Calrex child asked in fear, "What are they?" An elder answered with shaking breath, "They're from Earth." By the end of that day, half the planet was silent again, but not because it had fallen, because it had been cleared. Human. Soldiers stood in the streets unmoved by fire or blood. They looked at the cameras again and spoke for the first time. A deep voice echoed through every screen. "You asked for help. Help is here. Stay in your shelters. Do not interfere." That was it. No offers, no smiles, no demands. Just a warning, and somewhere. Deep in the council's main chamber, an alarm sounded. A file long hidden had just been unlocked. A warning from a dead civilization. One line only. If Earth answers a call, do not follow. Do not approach. Let them finish, and pray they leave. But now Earth had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same again. In the days that followed the landing of Earth's soldiers, the skies above Calrex 9 began to clear not from weather, but from war. The monsters that once hunted in open daylight were now buried in black ash. Their nests were burned. Their leaders crushed. The few survivors had fled into the deep forests, chased by silent figures in black armor. The world was quiet again, but not peaceful. The silence now carried a new kind of weight. Everyone felt it, the feeling of being watched, judged, measured. The humans were still there, still moving, still hunting. But they never spoke to the people they saved, not once. In the council chambers on Capital Prime, panic grew. A dozen alien leaders, each one proud, powerful, and once unshakable, now sat in silence. Eyes wide, voices low, the transmission from Earth still echoed in their minds. "You asked for help. Help is here. Stay in your shelters. Do not interfere." It was not a greeting. It was a command. And it came not from a council member. It's not from an ally, but from a planet the council had locked away for centuries. Earth, a place once considered too wild, too dangerous, too unstable, Class 0 Deathworld An. Official galactic title used for planets that bred only pain and survival, Earth had been left to rot in isolation, and now it had returned. Who gave them clearance? One counselor demanded. "No one did," another replied. "That's the problem. They don't need it." Dozens of council scouts were sent toward Calrex 9 to observe the humans, but none returned. Every probe went dark within minutes. Every ship was warned once, and if they didn't turn back, they were disabled. No fire, no deaths, just silence and shut down. The Terrans weren't just powerful, they were precise then. Without warning, Earth sent a second message. It came through every channel, every system, every screen. It didn't ask for permission, didn't wait for replies. The message was audio only, a voice human. Mail.com. Dead calm. "We are not part of your council. We are not under your rules. You let the Calrex people die. We chose not to." A pause. Then the voice returned. Deeper now. "We are not your enemies, but we are not your friends." Or what happens when a death world learns to survive. ... Alone. When we leave, pretend we never existed. That was it. No. Signature, no name. Just the voice of a species that had lived without the galaxy for hundreds of years. It had not just survived, but evolved into something else. The council scrambled. Some called for diplomacy, others for war, but none moved, not yet. Because in the heart of every high-ranking alien, the truth had sunk in. If Earth wanted war, it would have already started, and no one would be left to speak of it. Back on Calrex 9, something strange began to happen. In the skies, small Terran drones floated in silence, not attacking, not scanning, just watching. Below, the humans moved in squads and ever large groups, never loud. They communicated without words, using hand signs and strange flashes of light. They never rested. They never complained. They simply continued their mission. But the Calrex survivors noticed something even stranger. Wherever the humans passed, the world seemed to change. The poisoned rivers ran clean again. The dead soil began to show signs of green. The air once thick with smoke was becoming clear. The humans weren't just killing monsters, they were fixing the planet. But how? No one asked, and the Terrans gave no answers. One night, a small group of Calrex children wandered too close to a drop zone. Alarms blared, their guardians screamed. Should have been the end for them, but then, nothing. They returned unharmed, and they told a story. A human soldier, taller than any being they'd seen, had appeared from the smoke. He didn't speak, didn't move fast, just knelt before them, checked their vitals with a glowing device, and guided them away from danger. When the children asked who he was, he said nothing. But on his chest was a symbol, a burned earth, surrounded by a ring of stars. Shattered, the council demanded proof of these Deathworlders. But none came. Earth refused to speak again. No more messages, no signals, nothing. The galaxy was left to guess, but in quiet corners. In pirate stations and refugee ships, a whisper began to grow, not one of fear, but of awe. Some said Earth had become more than a planet. Some said it had become a force of nature. Others said Earth was no longer home to humans, but something beyond human, something reborn by silence and far above. Ships slowly passed across the stars. Its name was not spoken. Its engines made no sound. But its presence darkened everything beneath it. It didn't fire. It didn't land. It simply watched, waiting, because Earth had come to help, but it hadn't come to save the galaxy. It had come to watch what came next. And if the galaxy chose wrong again, Earth would not speak twice. The galaxy had never truly forgotten Earth. It had simply buried the truth. Now, black Terran ships hanging in the skies, and armored humans walking through fire like ghosts. The forgotten past began to crawl back to the surface. The Council held emergency meetings, secret ones, away from public eyes. High-level officials whispered behind locked doors. No recordings, no assistance, just cold silence and fear. Not of war, not of monsters, but of Earth. Because they knew something the rest of the galaxy didn't. They had known it all along, and they had lied 400 years ago. During the final days of the expansion wars, Earth was at the center of everything. The humans had spread faster than any other race before them. They didn't need permission. They didn't wait for approval. They colonized dead moons, storm-covered planets, frozen wastelands, and scorching deserts. It's places where no other species could survive. Places where the galaxy said life is impossible. But humans didn't just survive, they thrived. In the Council's official reports, Earth's growth was called aggressive. But behind closed doors, it was called something else, terrifying. Humans didn't evolve to rule, they evolved to endure. Their bodies could handle pain no other species could. Their minds adapted to fear instead of breaking. Even their soldiers were different, using instinct and emotion where other races needed programming and control. And worst of all, they didn't fear death because they came from a death world. That term wasn't a myth. It was science. Earth's storms could flatten cities. Its predators could swallow vehicles whole. Its diseases wiped out millions. Its planet shook with earthquakes, burned with wildfires, and froze its own oceans, and yet humanity climbed to the top anyway. The Council had never seen anything like it. They invited Earth to join the galactic community, but not for friendship. They wanted control, influence, but humans didn't play. By their rules, they made alliances with the weak, protected the broken, built weapons to advance. It's too fast. And then one day, they refused a council order. A small war followed, then a second, and finally, betrayal. The Council turned on Earth. Quietly, politically, they pulled trade. They blocked travel. And when Earth asked why, they were met with silence. So Earth gave the galaxy the same in return and vanished. Back in the present, a council historian named Velrix found a sealed archive in the ruins of Tel Aviv, stashed on a long-lost satellite once controlled by Earth's final outpost. The archive was encrypted, ancient, sealed behind language locks no one had broken for centuries. But when the Terran fleet arrived at Calrex 9, the locks opened automatically. Inside the file were video records of humans walking through radiation storms without gear, of children being trained in survival drills that would kill most adult aliens, of Earth scientists experimenting on their own DNA, making it stronger, faster, colder. Velrix sat alone in the dark, watching, eyes wide with terror. This wasn't evolution. This was preparation. Then she found one. Final message, a recording from Earth's last High Commander, spoken during the fall of the Treaty Worlds. His face was bloodied, but calm. Behind him, explosions lit the sky. He looked into the camera and said, "They will betray us. It's only a matter of time. We are not like them. They will fear what they do not understand. So let them forget us. Let them believe we are gone. When the day comes that they cry for help, let us decide if they deserve to be saved." Velrix closed the file. She stood there, cold breath shallow. Then she whispered, "They planned this." And for the first time in her long career, she felt something ancient crawl into her mind, dread, because the Terrans had not come out of hiding. By mistake, they had been waiting. On Calrex 9, the Black Fleet had begun to move, not to attack, to expand. Ships spread across orbit, scanning not just the planet, but the systems around it. Small drones slipped into space, invisible to most sensors. They were mapping, calculating, looking for something or someone when asked for their purpose. Earth sent no reply, but among the whispers of old prisoners, smugglers, and forgotten war survivors, a single name echoed: Project Reclaim. Okay, no one knew what it meant. But one thing was clear. Earth had not just returned to help. It had returned to reclaim what was lost: territory, honor, memory, and now the galaxy faced the one thing it had feared for centuries: Deathworlders with a reason to act. The stars around Calrex 9 looked peaceful, still, empty. But every sensor in nearby systems told a different story. There were ships, hundreds of them, human ships. They didn't broadcast names or send signals. They didn't flash lights or announce their presence. They simply moved, quiet as shadows, exact as blades. And wherever they passed, the galaxy changed. It began with a whisper, just a rumor. An old mining world, lost during the council collapse, had suddenly gone back online, not with pirates, not with scavengers. With order, power, stability. When satellites zoomed in, they found Terran dropships on the ground, rebuilding the power grid. No flags, no demands, just quiet reconstruction. Then came the second world. A ruined trade station, long left to rot, now fully active, guarded by strange human machines, half drone, half flesh. And then a third, a fourth, a fifth. None of these places had asked Earth to return, but Earth had come anyway, and it didn't wait for permission. The council called it an invasion. Earth called it restoration to them. These weren't new places. They were forgotten Terran outposts, left behind when Earth went silent, places humans had once helped build before the council turned on them. Now Earth was simply taking them back, not with armies, with presence, and the rest of the galaxy. They did nothing, not because they agreed, but because they were afraid. On board the Iron Rebirth, Terran command vessel above Sector 12, Commander Nara stood before a tactical map. She didn't smile, she didn't celebrate, she just watched. As red zones blinked into blue one after another, "They abandoned these worlds," she said. "But we remember every one." Behind her, a soldier replied, "We don't need to conquer. We just return." Nara nodded. "Exactly. Let them talk. Let them fear. We are not here to destroy. We're here to remind." She turned toward the main display, showing a wide area of forgotten council space. One name flashed at the center: Eris 14, status, claimed by Earth. Back on Capital Prime, the council was breaking. Arguments filled the chambers. This is illegal. They have no right. They didn't even respond to our commands. But the fear in their voices betrayed the truth. They had no plan to stop it. Because every time a patrol ship got too close to Earth zones, it went dark. No damage, no battle, just shutdown. Systems offline. Pilots asleep for hours without memory. When they woke, their ships were turned around, heading back to base. Earth didn't fight. It just removed problems. The people, however, told a different story. Refugees on old planets began to speak of humans arriving in silence, bringing food, clean water, and order. Not as conquerors, but as returning owners. They fixed systems no alien could. Restored oxygen farms that had failed for decades. One man said he saw a Terran soldier hold back a reactor meltdown with his own hands. He stood inside the core. The man whispered. His skin cracked. His eyes glowed. But he didn't scream. He just told us to run. And when the survivors looked back, he was gone. The galaxy had seen heroes before, but not like this. Not like the humans. They weren't noble. They weren't kind. They were relentless. On the outer edge of the rim worlds, a small band of mercenaries tried to raid a Terran refit station. They thought the humans would react like any other species with panic or diplomacy. Instead, they were met by 3 black-armored figures. Only 3. The mercenaries laughed, until the lights went out 10 minutes later. The entire group had surrendered, begging for mercy. When asked what happened, their leader replied with a shaking voice, "We never even saw them move. They didn't shoot. They just stared." And then we were on the ground. Terran silence had become its own weapon. No speeches, no threats, just actions. And it was working. Planets were switching sides without war. Old allies of the ASL, now called Earth, instead asking for help, for structure, for protection, and Earth gave it, but never for free. Only if the world agreed to one rule: no lies. If a planet wanted help, it had to tell the truth about its past, its war crimes, its betrayals. If it refused, Earth left, and the monsters returned. The message was clear: Earth will help you, but only if you face your sins. This wasn't charity. This was judgment. In the shadows of a forgotten station called Red Halo, a group of old war survivors humans from the original colonies watched the Terran ships pass. One of them, a scarred woman with gray eyes, whispered, "They're not like we were. They're more." Another nodded. They didn't just survive Earth, they became Earth. And the youngest among them asked, "Will the galaxy ever stop them?" The woman shook her head. "No, because they're not here to rule." She looked at the stars, now flickering with Terran signals. They're here to remember what the galaxy tried to forget. It began with a single ship, small council frigate, armed and proud, sent to observe Earth's activities near the reclaimed system of Relin Prime. The humans had already restored power grids, removed pirate strongholds, and stabilized the planet's weather system. People of Relin were cheering for Earth's protection. But the council saw it as a threat, so they sent a message. Then they sent the ship. And then Earth responded. The council frigate was found 12 hours later, still floating in space. No damage. No scorch marks. No missing crew. But the inside was dark. Every system was dead. The engines were frozen in time. And the crew? They were alive but not awake. Every one of them was sleeping. Unmoving. Breathing. Unconscious they had been. Put to sleep. No wounds. No poison. Just silence. And on the wall of the command room, something was burned in with plasma. "Stand down," that was all. 2 words. No explanation, but every council leader who saw it understood exactly what it meant. Earth wasn't bluffing, and it wasn't using weapons the galaxy could understand. Within days, the Black Fleet began to move, not just on Relin Prime, but across 3 sectors. New ships appeared from deep void space places, no one had explored. Ships with no registration. No signal. No crew seen from the outside. Some looked like floating knives, others like silent coffins, and some like creatures made of metal and bone. People started calling them the Death Fleet, because when they passed through orbit, all other signals went quiet, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. On the surface of Relin Prime, human engineers walked through old cities, planting small black towers that pulsed slowly, machines that repaired air, controlled gravity storms, and stabilized tectonic faults. But they weren't just machines. They were warnings, each one marked with the same symbol, a cracked earth, wrapped in a broken chain. Even alien children began to recognize it, and they knew when that mark was near. Nothing bad dared to come close. Not pirates, not beasts, not even council scouts. In response, the council called an emergency strike. They sent 3 warships to Sector B-19, where Earth had set up a deep space, logistics base. They wanted to make a statement, but the humans didn't fight back. They let the ships arrive, let the guns charge, let the commanders scream into their coms, and then they turned off the stars. That's how the first officer described it. One moment, the stars were bright. The next, gone. Not destroyed, blocked by something massive. A shadow ship. So large it covered the entire view. It made no sound. It gave no signal. But it opened one single channel. A voice came through, low, calm, cold. This is not your sky. Then, council ships lost power. They didn't explode. They didn't crash. They just went darkened, woke up a day later. Outside Earth's space, no memory, no damage, but every crew member had the same dream, a world burning, a black sun, and eyes watching them from a shattered moon after that. The council gave up trying to threaten Earth. They shut down discussions about war. They erased old orders of attack, and for the first time in over a century, they held a vote to step back because now they understood something they had long ignored. Earth had not been sleeping. It had been building. It had prepared. Fleets that didn't need crews. Weapons that didn't fire bullets. Technology that didn't care about logic. Systems that didn't just fight. They ended wars before they began. The people of the galaxy began to follow Earth not out of fear, but out of trust. They saw that Earth didn't destroy unless forced, that it didn't speak unless needed, and that when it helped, it asked for nothing except truth. On a dozen planets, old enemies laid down weapons when Terran boots touched the ground in war-torn zones. Rebels surrendered just to be relocated by Earth's ships, because Earth had become something else. Not an empire, not a savior, but a force, a balance, a Deathworld's justice, and in the heart of the Black Fleet. A voice whispered into a silent room, "We are awake now. Let them remember." The galaxy thought the worst was over, that Earth had made its point and would disappear again into the dark. But Earth wasn't finished. Not yet, because while the Council wasted time in meetings and other species hesitated in fear, Earth had found the true enemy, the origin world of the invaders who had once attacked. Calrex-9, a planet hidden in dead space, a place without a name, a world no one dared to enter, until now. Earth didn't send warnings. It didn't request backup. It just moved. The Death Fleet turned its full attention to the unknown system, a place full of black gas, broken moons, and silence. And in the middle of it, the enemy world waited, live, massive, and pulsing like a heart, but not with blood, with rage and hunger. The enemy had devoured colonies, broken armies, and laughed at peace treaties, but now they watched their skies darken with black metal. They saw Earth's ships appear not in single waves, but in a formation so perfect it looked like a wall of death moving across the stars. They opened fire. They launched biomissiles, plasma storms, mind-screech weapons, everything in their arsenal, and the Terrans. They said nothing. They didn't dodge. They simply absorbed the first strike. Then responded. The first wave was silent. No explosions, no beams of light, just A disappearance. Entire defense towers simply blinked out. Creatures on the surface screamed. Without sound, clawing at their own skin as invisible forces crushed their minds. Black pods dropped from orbit, slamming into the crust, and from them emerged the Deathworlders. Not just soldiers. Now hunters, they moved without sound. Without fear, their armor crawled. Like living metal, their eyes glowed red in the smoke, and they didn't take prisoners. 1. Squad reached the enemy's main control center in less than 6 minutes. 6 minutes. Fortress that had stood for centuries. Gone. Inside, the enemy war commander fell to his knees, hands raised. He tried to speak, tried to surrender, but the human didn't even look at him. He just placed a black stone on the floor. It pulsed once, then released a shock wave of white light. When it faded, only ash remained. The message was clear. Earth doesn't accept surrender from monsters. Meanwhile, in orbit, Earth activated its final command. The Eclipse Protocol. No sound came. No alarms. Just a slow-spreading darkness across the planet's atmosphere. Terran machines began shutting down every energy source on the enemy world, melting towers. Draining. Oceans, silencing screams. And then, for the first time in galactic history, an entire planet went completely dark. No signal, no power, no survivors. The invaders who had once terrified the stars were now nothing, erased. Back in Council space, thousands watched the feeds from deep scout probes. At first, they hoped Earth would show restraint. Then they hoped Earth would be merciful. Then, they stopped hoping and just watched, because Earth had gone to war not to win, but to end it. When it was over, the Death Fleet turned back. Not fast, not slow, just steady, unshaken, untouched. And at the front of the fleet, single message broadcast. On all frequencies. Threat neutralized. Stand down.
Do not follow.
Some called it overkill. Others called it justice. But no one dared to question Earth now. Not after watching what it could. Not after seeing what it was willing to become, because Earth hadn't just destroyed a world, it had silenced a species. Not out of hate, not for glory, but because they had crossed a line, and Earth never forgets. The galaxy held its breath. After the destruction of the enemy world, no one knew what Earth would do next. The Death Fleet stood still, parked like shadows across sectors of space. Silent. Watching. Waiting. No one dared approach. No one dared speak. Entire species held off on exploration missions, paused trade, and shut down deep space stations. The fear was simple. What if Earth decided to stay? But Earth had never wanted to rule. It had never wanted thrones, gold, or slaves. It wanted something far older, far deeper. Respect. And now, it had it on Calrex 9, the world Earth had first answered. The people emerged from their shelters for the first time in months. Cities that were once piles of broken glass now stood tall. Power was back. Food flowed again. Sky cleaners hummed through the air, clearing smoke, and strange Terran machines kept watch in silenced dark towers pulsing gently. If breathing, no Terran soldier spoke to them, no. Human-made demands. But carved into the ground outside every major city were the same 6 words. You were worth saving. Remember that. And then, Terrans left. All across the galaxy, the Death Fleet pulled back. Planet by planet. Out they disappeared. Some jumped into deep voids, vanishing from sensors. Others entered black holes, and purpose never coming back. A few simply turned off, floating in space like sleeping giants. Council drones watched in shock as humans walked away from power unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They didn't conquer, they didn't stay, they just left. But before they vanished completely, Earth sent one last signal. It came in every language, to every species, to every world. It played once, then was gone. No repeat, no translation needed. The voice was calm, steady, and cold. It said, "We did not return for revenge. We returned because you called. We came to end the threat you ignored. We will not stay. But we are watching. If darkness rises again, call us. But only if you are ready for the cost. Then silence. The council scrambled to rewrite the laws of the galaxy. New. Systems were designed for peacekeeping. Treaties were signed faster than ever. The words, Earth, Death Fleet, and Deathworlders became sacred. Some feared them, some honored them, and a few worshipped them. On a small moon in the outer ring, a young alien child looked up at the stars. He had been born after the war. He had never seen a human, but he knew the stories. He asked his mother, will they come back? She looked up too at a patch of sky that always flickered, even when the rest of the stars were still, and she whispered, only if we need them. And in the endless dark of space, somewhere far beyond the edge of known systems, a single black ship floated, silent, alive, waiting, and inside it a message pulsed across its core, repeating endlessly in Terran code. Observe, protect, respond if summoned. Earth was gone, but its shadow would never fade, because the galaxy now knew the truth. When you call for help, and Earth answers. Be ready for what follows, because Deathworlders never come quietly, and they never leave the galaxy the same. The galaxy held its breath. After the destruction of the enemy world, no one knew what Earth would do next. The Death Fleet stood still, parked like shadows across sectors of space, silent, watching, waiting. No one dared approach. No one dared speak. Entire species held off on exploration missions, paused trade, and shut down deep space stations. The fear was simple. What if Earth decided to stay? But Earth had never wanted to rule. It had never wanted thrones, gold, or slaves. It wanted something far older, far deeper, respect. And now, it had it. On Calrex 9, the world Earth had first answered. The people emerged from their shelters for the first time in months. Cities that were once piles of broken glass now stood tall. Power was back. Food flowed again. Sky cleaners hummed through the air, clearing smoke, and strange Terran machines kept watch in silence, dark towers pulsing gently, as if breathing. No Terran soldier spoke to them, no. Human-made demands, but carved into the ground outside every major city were the same 6 words, you were worth saving. Remember that. And then the Terrans left. All across the galaxy, the Death Fleet pulled back, planet by planet. They disappeared. Some jumped into deep voids, vanishing from sensors. Others entered black holes in purpose, never coming back. And a few simply turned off, floating in space like sleeping giants. Council drones watched in shock as humans walked away from power unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They didn't conquer. They didn't stay. They just left. But before they vanished completely, Earth sent one last signal. It came in every language, to every species, to every world. It played once. It played once. No repeat, no translation needed. The voice was calm, steady, and cold. It said, we did not return for revenge. We returned because you called. We came to end the threat you ignored. We will not stay. But we are watching. If darkness rises again, call us. But only if you are ready for the cost. Then silence. The council scrambled to rewrite the laws of the galaxy. New systems were designed for peacekeeping. Treaties were signed faster than ever. The words Earth, Death Fleet, and Deathworlders became sacred. Some feared them, some honored them, and a few worshipped them. On a small moon in the outer ring, a young alien child looked up at the stars. He had been born after the war. He had never seen a human, but he knew the stories. He asked his mother, will they come back? She looked up to at a patch of sky that always flickered, even when the rest of the stars were still, and she whispered, only if we need them. And in the endless dark of space, somewhere far beyond the edge of known systems, a single black ship floated, silent, alive, waiting, and inside it, A message pulsed across its core, repeating endlessly in Terran code. Observe, protect, respond, if summoned. Earth was gone, but its shadow would never fade, because the galaxy now knew the truth. When you call for help and Earth answers, be ready for what follows, because Deathworlders never come quietly, and they never leave the galaxy the same.